Hey everybody, what is going on? It's your boy Izzo33, welcoming you to the Anarchy Analysis, aka the 2020 predictions for the spring and summer split of the LCS. Now, this is the first video of two in which I am going to be doing the LEC in the other video, and this one is primarily focusing on the spring split of the LCS and how I feel each team is stacking up. Now, we're going to start off with 100 Thieves. Now, I've rated each team on 3 different stats, each player individually as well. It's on teamwork, mechanics, and potential experience. Now, teamwork applies to aka how well a player fits into a team, how well he plays alongside his other laners, with his jungler, etc, etc. And each team is being graded on a scale factor of 1 to 10. There won't be many ratings below 5 because this is the top league in America. Players are going to be rated quite highly, and they should be highly rated as a whole. Mechanics are basically micro and macro playstyles, success in 1v1s. Obviously, I'm taking into account all-star tournament performances in terms of the 1v1 tournament, if they've been, and potential / experience. Now, this is sort of the overall rating of a player. The potential is if they're new, upcoming into the league. Obviously, they've got to fulfill a lot of potential, and hopefully you'll be quite highly rated because of how good they can actually perform. And experience is also another factor into the stat. In a sense, if you're a veteran of like 5 seasons and a rock in your position, chances are you're going to have a lot of experience against a lot of the opponents you're going to face. So knowledge of the game is a key factor into where we've rated. But anyway, let's jump into the 100 Thieves roster for this season, and they've got a very stacked roster. They've retained Ssumday, and he is probably one of the best top laners in the league. He is by far well talented in working with his team. He ran the academy team last season, getting them what I do believe to be the Academy World Championship. He is very highly mechanical and has the potential to just be an absolute monster in that top lane for the 3rd season in a row. Next we have Meteos, a seasoned veteran who's been playing on and off the Rift really for the past few seasons. He hasn't played that much when he's been signed to rosters. I look at Optic as the example. I've probably seen him more on the analyst desk in the last few seasons than him actually playing with the Optic team. However, he is a very well-rounded player. His mechanics may be lacking in terms of the fact that he doesn't really fit well into the role. I do believe he's probably one of the weaker members of this team. And yeah, we'll move on to Ryoma, whom I do believe is returning to the LCS this season. He's I haven't got much more to say for him. He's kind of bang average. There's not much expected for him to be sliding into this lineup. This 100 Thieves team is very hit and miss in terms of who they've got. And Ryoma probably, I think, will struggle with the rest of the LCS mid laner lineup. Next we have probably one of my MVPs for last season in Codysun. Codysun was an absolute beast in that bot lane alongside Vulcan. And Vulcan carried the team in terms of setting up the plays, whereas Codysun just was able to position correctly and pick up the kills where needed. He had so many games in a row towards the end of the season where he was deathless. and it wasn't like until he went into the TSM series where he got his first death and lost in a while. So he is a very good player. Whether or not he slides nicely into this team and has the same sort of bot lane fluidity with his support in stun is up to be seen, shall we say. But yeah, let's run down the overall averages of this team. Teamwork averaged out at a 6, mechanics a 7, and their potential experience a 7.8, which is quite high. This team could do quite a lot this season. Next, we have probably one of the most expected top teams this season, and it's going to be C9, whom have retained most of their squad, other than what I believe to be a side grade of picking up Sven from TSM. This squad has stayed pretty much the same, so they're going to have quite high sort of teamwork. They've also picked up Vulcan, who is a very good team player who knows how to work around the role and is probably one of the best supports in the league. They've also got probably the best top laner in Licorice. The only thing he really lacks is mechanics in terms of his actual skill set, but it's pretty much a similar squad. If they were able to have retained Svenskeren, this probably would have been my number 1 team. However, you're bringing in Blabber, whom didn't play much in terms of first team experience last year, but I think he's going to do well sliding into this lineup, and as a whole, this is a very strong team. Now, we look at their actual stats. Overall, 8 for teamwork, 6.6 in mechanics, probably brought down by Blabber's 5 that I've given him because he isn't a mechanical player. He has lost out in previous seasons to other junglers in terms of smiting, and he was only really known for playing a couple of champions last 2 seasons, and he hasn't had that much experience in the main team. But yeah, potential experience is quite high, obviously close to the nice 10. The closer you are, the better you are, obviously. And yeah, it's a very nice squad. Honestly, if they were able to retain Svenskeren, this would have been a very good team. Next, we have Counter Logic Gaming. This team as a whole, I feel, improved slightly in terms of their pickups. Sort of a improvement in the mid lane, trading Power of Evil for Crown. They've regained Smoothie for Biofrost, and honestly are quite solid as a team. I didn't really rate Ruin last season, but he kind of solidified that top lane for CLG. He wasn't too much of an issue. He didn't really get Direst. Wiggly, probably one of my MVPs of last year. He played phenomenally, and I feel he has a lot more to give, considering that was his first proper season in the top league of League of Legends. He was in Academy for a long time. Crown is a phenomenal player. Granted, he hadn't had the best of season last year, and this year I feel he could give some more. He is an alright player, obviously. He's done a lot in terms of his Worlds experience, and yeah, he is a good player. Stixxay is one of them just solid workhorse players who doesn't get the sort of attention other ADCs get. He's there and he'll do his job. He's an alright player, and I feel like we're probably closing in on his true breakout season where he just goes off. He'll have the Cody season like Cody had last year. But yeah, an alright team. They've got Smoothie back, who is a phenomenal support. It's sort of a side grade for Bio. There isn't much of a loss there. It's anything a very good team. Overall, we look at their stats: 7.4, 7.6, and an 8.4. I've given this team quite high potential because I've got a feeling they could make top 4. Whether or not I put them in top 4 depends on the other teams. They're sort of one of these teams like C9 this year I feel are going to be hit or miss. Next we have Dignitas. Now, Dignitas are a new team returning to the LCS. In a sense, they do take the Clutch Gaming spot, and they've retained Huni. That's the only player Dignitas have retained, and Huni is a solid player who just gets isolated on an island, and if anything, if you ban away his 3 main picks, the Gangplank, the Rumble, and whatever else, I think it was... I forget what it was, but if you just take away his main picks, and he isn't left with many options, and he can just get bodied quite easily. He's known to tilt and get sort of put off, but he is a former world champion, and he has potential just to survive. He's an alright player in NA. Everywhere else he goes, he's phenomenal. Grig is a standard jungler. TSM, I think, have done wrong by getting rid of him. He was phenomenal when he got to play. They played with him for an entire season, and he wasn't their issue. He wasn't their cause of losing matches. He played phenomenal. He stole Baron phenomenally. Yet, they got rid of him for someone we're going to talk about later. And yeah, I feel he's this very good jungler. Next we have a player returning back to the league. Last seen on Golden Guardians or Echo Fox, I forget which. It's Froggen. The Anivia man is back in the LCS, and he's just a fine player. There isn't much wrong you can say about Froggen. He has so much experience as a mid laner and can survive with anyone, really. He can just chill, and he has very good mechanics. He's strong at the micro game and just can outplay you if you let him get a chance. And one thing though is their new ADC. Not much has been given in terms of professional performance for this guy. Josons was the sub for TSM and their academy team. He didn't play much because Tactical obviously was the main ADC. He played alright. If any game I've seen of him, he did perform in the Tyler 1 Invitational, losing out to former pros in terms of the meme stream Dream Team. But obviously he's stepping into a big role. He's got potential to perform. Whether or not he does is However, he's been partnered with probably the most experienced support in the league. Aphromoo is a steady hand to have in any team. He's a good player. In fact, a lot of this team, a steady hand you would want in a team. They're very experienced in terms of the LCS. They've won it. They know what they're doing. And Aphromoo is that leader that can probably guide Johnson into some actual success. However, based on the ratings given, we have some quite low stats. Yes, they're all in the 7s, which is okay. However, I got a feeling that this team won't do too good and may pick it up. next season. Moving on to the other returning team, in Evil Geniuses, they make it back into the league, taking Optic's spot. And this team is stacked. They bring in a Cloud9, I do believe, Cloud9's Academy top laner, who obviously was able to survive pretty well in that top lane. Wasn't any issues. He's getting standard rating 6s across the board, except for potential. Obviously, because he's a new player, you're going to have a slightly higher potential to do well. You then bring in the MVP of the summer split in Svenskeren. Very strong jungler, obviously knows his game, and is very good, high rating overall, and is going to be a good player this season. Whether or not he gets MVP again, it's doubtful he does, but he's a good player. Then you bring in your imports, the next two. Jizuke, the Italian stallion, is a wildcard player, obviously known for his assassins in the mid lane and the random weird picks that we probably will be seeing each week in the LCS for a while. He's a very good player, except at Worlds where we saw Vitality tilt. Yikes. But no, he's a good player. He overall hasn't had the best season last year, but I feel he can do well over here in NA, where the region is slightly easier, shall we say, than EU. Next we have the former SKT bot laner in Bang. Bang had a subpar performance on 100 Thieves last season, and him ending up here is kind of expected considering Cody Sun went to 100 Thieves. Bang is gonna have an interesting time, I feel, and it might be his last season as a pro. It just depends on if this team clicks. Obviously, he's been paired with a different support this season in the form of Zeyzal, who is probably the second best support in the league. By far, one of the strongest performers at C9 last year. And yeah, could be a very interesting team, especially the strength that this team has. And if we run down their actual team stats, 7.2 in teamwork, 7.4 in mechanics, and 7.8, all above 7. Quite high rated stats, honestly, and I feel this team could be a wildcard team, like a potential dark horse going into next split. And we move on to FlyQuest. FlyQuest seem fairly unchanged. They've picked up Power of Evil, and Santorin is in there, Ignar's in there, Wild Turtle's in there, and Viper all returning. It's a fairly standard team. It's an average rating on them all. Obviously, you have Wild Turtle, a former LCS winner, Power of Evil, a very good EU mid laner, Santorin, also a former LCS winner, Viper, a very, very good top laner, probably 4th or 5th, quite high rated in terms of placement as a top laner, Ignar, a strong support. Team overall is bang average though, as a whole. They'll pick up wins here and there, might make playoffs, but depending on if they have another tilting second split in the summer, it's going to be a iffy team to actually put quite high. Obviously, you look at their actual stats, with 1 below 7, you kind of have to worry if they can actually do well. But obviously, as I said, they're an average team that could overperform or could underperform quite easily. And we move on to by far the weakest team. in the LCS. According to me, the only saving grace is they've retained Hauntzer, who is probably their most experienced player in terms of LCS standard. You've got Golden Glue, you picked up him, who is obviously a very, very good, obviously C9 Academy mid laner, who was subbed in and beat TSM to a championship. He is very strong. However, you look at the rest of the team, they're all, and I mean all, subpar or just par laners in terms of their position. Like, you look at the players that could have been in this team, and you just gotta feel that you could have done so much better. But yeah, we look at their stats, and all of them are below or at 7. This is probably the lowest rated team that we've got, and it's understandable why they're this low rated, because I just don't see much potential in this team at all. Next we have another returning team in Immortals. Now Immortals have a very, very good roster. They bring in Soaz from EU, who is by far one of the most experienced players still in competitive League of Legends, who can just hang with the best of them. You then have probably one of the most experienced junglers in NA, Xmithie, on this team. And yeah, I've given Xmithie better ratings than Svenskeren. Why? Well, he's the most consistent player in this league. And yeah. We then have the former Mad Lions mid laner Ika being brought over to NA, and I feel he can do quite a lot here, honestly. Mad Lions are a very strong team who will be grading in the next episode of Anarchy Analysis. But yeah, he's a fine player. We haven't seen much in terms of top tier League of Legends other than the European Masters. But yeah, good player all around. Altec is subpar. He's had a few good showings in the LCS before. However, it's few and far, and I don't feel he's going to provide much to this team. However, he still has potential to perform and prove me wrong. Hence why he has that 8 potential. I can see him actually turning up. And then we have Hakuo, who is probably one of the strongest supports in the league. You look at the Apollo and Hakuo duo in the past, you see them two being so good together. Hakuo is probably the old version of Vulcan. However, Hakuo, I feel, can show his strength and why he's been brought into this Immortals lineup pretty easily. And yeah, we look at the stats, they're all above 7 and 1 in the 8th. That usually tells you that I have a high feeling for this team and could be outsiders for the title. Next we have the Spring and Summer Split champions from last year in Team Liquid. Now, one big change here for this team is their new superstar jungler from EU in Broxah, and fairly standard ratings you'd expect for the team, the caliber of Team Liquid. Impact, though, I have rated quite low. He's a solid rock in the top lane, but he does get caught out from time to time, and he isn't too mechanically gifted. He's just there to survive. That's really his goal in this Liquid team, and I'm hoping that he brings some more stronger performances, I feel, to this team in the next season. Then we have Broxah. Broxah Superstar jungler from EU. This guy, fantastic teamwork abilities, and the fact that he can play champs like Lee Sin and show up wherever on the map and just counter gank or be the start initiator of a fight, it's mad. This guy can perform phenomenally for a team, and yeah, I feel could be the superstar MVP of this split. You've then got Jensen, solid Danish mid laner. Doublelift, probably the best AD carry in the league. And then Core JJ, probably the best support in the league. And we look at their overalls. Yeah. 2 stats above 8. That usually implies that this is your top team. When you're so high rated, and I feel that this team could do good, who knows? Maybe I'm bluffing where I think this team will finish. Anyway, we move to TSM. TSM, I feel, are going to have an interesting season. The team has been rebuilt, shall we say, around Bjergsen and Broken Blade with the return of Biofrost. But before we discuss them, let's discuss Broken Blade. Obviously, TSM's top laner is a fairly strong mechanical player. We saw so many situations, though, last year where he got caught out over pushing his lane. However, with that over aggression, he does win you the game. He wins you turrets. He wins you opportunities to get at the opponent's base. And he was sort of the guy that got TSM a lot of their wins last season. And his mechanical outplays in terms of them situations where he's caught out, he escaped 9 times out of 10 on champs like Akali or Aurelia. He managed to dodge out of them situations and actually do pretty good. We'll move on to Bjergsen now, and Bjergsen obviously is the god of TSM. He is TSM's most renowned player by far. This guy is great. He's got very good mechanics. He's a winner of the All-Stars 1v1 tournament. He's, I do believe, the only one from NA who has won that tournament, beating out Doublelift, however. He's also very good, experienced player. And honestly, he does like a bit of teamwork here and there. Some plays he never really tries to make it to. Sometimes it's just a bit iffy sort of plays that was made, team decisions that were made last year involving a former player. But yeah, very strong player, and I feel could do good. Kobe, oh boy, the Splice Wonder Kid, the only player from that Splice team to make a second trip to Worlds, and this guy is a phenomenal player. They're replacing Sven with this guy. I feel it is a slight upgrade on Sven in terms of the fact that Kobe is more mechanically pleasing and I feel could be a better fit to TSM than what Sven was. Kobe is great in terms of his team play, and I'm regretting giving him an 8 potential. I think he could have 10 potential. I feel this could be his breakout year as well, and a chance at being MVP, I feel. Plus, you can combining him with Biofrost. And don't get me wrong, I feel that Smoothie would have been the same sort of fit for this team that Biofrost is. But these two, I feel, with Biofrost's sort of more aggressive playstyle, would be a very, very explosive bot lane. But one thing that I have missed out is TSM's jungler. Now, this guy is probably one of the best mechanical junglers and has high potential to be a great player. However, this guy is known to be outside of games, be quite toxic, be not good to work around, and honestly not a pleasant person. However, he could be very good in terms of TSM wanting to pick up wins against former teams and actually be that dominant jungler in Dardoch. However, whether or not we see it, I'm not going to speculate too much, but I feel that he could perform highly this season. But if we look down at every stat here for TSM, they have high stats, bar the teamwork, which has kind of been let down by the 5 I've given Dardoch, whom is sort of a hit or miss sort of player. Whether or not we see it, it's... But that's every team given a rating. But that's not my actual overall prediction on where I think each team will actually finish. And starting with the first 4 from 10 to 7, we have Golden Guardians, FlyQuest, Dignitas, and Immortals. Now, these 4 teams are going to miss out on playoffs for this spring split. I've already told you what I think of Golden Guardians. I don't rate them highly at all. FlyQuest and Dig are them bang average teams. And Immortals, I feel, are going to narrowly miss out on playoffs. It's going to be down to tiebreakers against the team in 6th. And the team in 6th is going to be CLG. CLG, I feel, are going to scrape by into playoffs. They're going to have a phenomenal run towards the end of the season, split, and narrowly make it in on a win-loss record against Immortals. Yeah, it's going to be close. But 5th through 1st, placing them correctly was the hard bit for me. And in 5th, believe it or not, I've actually put C9. C9 have lost out. You've got rid of the best jungler, the MVP jungler, and one of the best supports in the league. Replaced them with jungler in Blabber, who is an okay average player. You've lost Sneaky, but you've side graded with Zen, and you have Vulcan, I do believe, in the bot lane. I don't remember who they got as their bot laner. I do believe it is Vulcan, but it's a team that could do better than 5th. Don't get me wrong, all these teams could do better than where I put them, but it's going to be not a good showing from C9 this season. 100 Thieves for me are going to be our 4th team. Why? Well, they've got experienced players in that team who are dominant in their role. Sunday is an absolute god in that top lane. You've got Cody Sun, probably the 2nd best ADC in the league. You've got Meteos, probably the most experienced, or one of the most experienced junglers, and very, very strong player. And then you've got some new blood in Urka. I do believe Ryuma. And yeah, it's going to be a good showing from 100 Thieves this year after a quite poor last season. Next we have EG up in 3rd. I feel this EG team, with their pickups and their actual lineup being part of C9, is a very strong team overall, and I feel could do exceptional this year, being the sort of superstar team to break out, be like the C9 of the year, when C9 first showed up in the LCS, being this dominant force that absolutely bullied everyone and took over. I feel Evil Geniuses could be doing that this year. Could, hence why I've put them in third. They're a strong team, though, to say the least. And number 1 and 2, it was hard to choose. I really didn't want to put TSM first, so I didn't. TSM, yes, I've criticised Dardot. However, I feel this team, with the pickups they've got and the core roster they've built around, it's a strong lineup that have 3 of the 4 players, or 3 of the 5 players, have all played on TSM for more than 1 season. And they also have a very, very good set of players. Don't get me wrong, I think it's going to be close in summer and spring for who takes the top spot. But obviously, I've said how much Team Liquid are in terms of experience and how good they are as a team. This lineup they're rocking this year, it's going to be quite explosive. I feel that they may go for a perfect split. Whether or not they get it, it kind of comes down to playoffs. And you're going to be surprised with what I've done with playoffs. So, the spring playoffs, I've picked TSM as the winners. I've explained the strengths of TSM over Team Liquid, and I feel it's going to be a 3-2 final to TSM against Team Liquid. EG are going to beat C9, and 100 Thieves are going to beat CLG in the quarters. Semis, TSM beat EG, 100 Thieves lose out to Team Liquid, and then TSM beat Team Liquid in the final. That's what I feel the spring split's going to be. TSM coming out champions and going into MSI. Summer playoffs, I've gone with something a little different. Yeah, I've put EG up as the winners here. I feel that TSM are going to fall off like they usually do in the summer split. Team Liquid, after losing to TSM in the spring split, might struggle to recover and have a sort of a downward spiral. Sort of the C9 effect. And yeah, I think it's going to be close. And Evil Geniuses are an outside choice for mine to win the summer split. I feel they're going to be probably there or thereabouts to winning it by, the split comes round. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is my predictions for the LCS 2020. If you enjoyed it, leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new around here, and I'm going to change up what I usually say here. I'm going to say, leave a comment on your predictions for the upcoming split, and I will see you guys later. Peace